You're now listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.
Hello, Rockies. This is Sarah Jane Maroney, your host, and welcome to the Week in Review for the third week of April in 2025. First up, coal plants in Craig. Tri-State Generation is reviewing federal executive orders related to Trump talking about good, clean coal and Governor Polis retorting with federal overreach. And they are reviewing the orders, but believe that they're going to go ahead with the plans to close Craig Unit 1 by the end of 2025 and then Units 2 and 3 in 2028. Once those stations close, Tri-State will add natural gas plant with the ability to blend up to 30% hydrogen into the fuel and battery storage in Moffat County. The new investments aren't going to fully replace Craig Station, but they've stepped up and this has done a great deal to help alleviate the concerns, Mayor of Craig commented. Coal's share of electricity generation in the United States dropped to 16% in 2023 after a peak of 53% in 1997. And an estimated 780 coal-fired units have been closed since 2000. The declining prices for wind and solar generation have contributed to this, and the big spur was unlocking natural gas reserves, which has now made that much cheaper. Natural gas-fired generation's share of output has more than doubled between 1990 and 2023 to 43% of all electricity supplied. And Tri-State actually provides power to 41 rural electric cooperatives, and 16 of those are in Colorado. Colorado's 8th congressional district is yet again a focus. 2 years ago, Representative Caraveo won this election. It was a newly created seat. And then last fall, Gabe Evans unseated her. And she has already declared that she is running for the seat again for the next election cycle, even though we're only few months into this, and she actually has a primary opponent, and there's quite a lot of money being raised already for this hotly contested seat. Representative Caraveo has done lots of interviews locally, and she has been discussing her mental health and specifically mentioned an incident where she took a high dose of sleeping pills and texted a staffer, quote, "If I don't wake up tomorrow, tell everybody I'm sorry," end quote. The staffer evidently called 911, and ambulance transported her, and she was put on a mental health hold. So she is wanting to let people know about her struggles and helping awareness of mental health as she runs for the seat. Speaking of elections that are just around the corner, there have been lots of candidates declared for the future gubernatorial race in 2026. In terms of the Democratic candidates, Phil Weiser, the current Colorado Attorney General, has declared, and Michael Bennet, the current senator from Colorado, has also declared his run for governor. And on the Republican side of things, we have Greg Lopez running yet again, and a few other candidates, Mark Baisley, who is a state senator from Woodland Park, Scott Bottoms, currently a state representative from Colorado Springs, and finally also Sheriff Mike Sell in Teller County. And then there are 10 more names on that list of Republican candidates, as well as 7 other unaffiliated candidates. So it's already a full slate. On Friday, the State Commissioner of Insurance, Michael Conway, threatened to take money from the state's reinsurance program and shift funds to pay for health insurance for illegal immigrants. And this is all related to a bill, HB 25-1297. And this changes the fees that are charged for the state health insurance affordability enterprise that was created in 2020, and it would increase the fees and allow these things to be continually funded. The fund covers 3 different areas: the reinsurance program, OmniSalud program, and then payments to carriers to lower the cost of purchasing insurance through the health insurance exchange for individuals that meet federal requirements of having an income between 133 and 400% of the federal poverty line. HB 25-1297 would increase fees by 1%, and it passed a party line vote in the House Health and Human Services Committee on the 26th of March, but it stalled out in the House Finance Committee and doesn't seem to have enough votes to go through. And Commissioner Conway is quite frustrated with everyone and said that he might need to take money out of the reinsurance program in order to fund OmniSalud. And according to a presentation, this would mean an increase of $6,000 per year for a family of four on average, and as much as $13,000 per year for a family of four on the Western Slope, who spend more on this than any other area of Colorado. And if the bill fails, it will further jeopardize funding for gender-affirming care and for state-paid abortion services. Jason Hopfer, who is negotiating HB 25-1297 at the Capitol on behalf of the Colorado Association of Health Plans, said that they support both, quote, but the division and the administration have refused to meet us in the middle. Instead, they have threatened to further drive up costs for everyone, end quote. And the Colorado Competitive Council said questions remain about the financial problems with reinsurance because they pointed out that the state spends about $35 million to $45 million per year on reinsurance and nearly double that on OmniSalud already. A Colorado Springs man was arrested by the FBI on Tuesday. Suspicions of writing a, quote, declaration of war, end quote, against the Trump administration, threatening newsworthy killings that would begin on the Thursday. And among those threatened in the document were Elon Musk, as well as, quote, owners, drivers, and occupants of Tesla swastika cars, end quote. The man was identified as Carl Howard Payne Jr., 58, and was taken into custody, and he has denied sending the threatening messages, but could face up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine if convicted. Finally, a ballot measure to repeal Colorado's wolf introduction program has been rejected by the title board. They claim that it violates the state's single subject rule, and it had 4 different unrelated subjects, so therefore ballot measure 35 was not approved. However, initiative 13 that stated the end of the wolf reintroduction program by the 31st of December 2026 has been approved. However, that means that it still needs signatures, and any ballot measure requires 124,238 valid signatures. Standards say that you collect 200,000 signatures just in case, but those who are doing this are struggling to raise funds, so it could make it a tall order. Critics of the ballot measure have pointed out that the state will likely have completed the reintroduction, and this renders the whole thing moot. There have been 5 deaths of the wolves that have been reintroduced, and that leaves the state with 27 collared wolves, including 2 in Jackson County who traveled to Colorado several years ago from Wyoming. And those are the top stories from the 3rd week of April in 2025. Thanks for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.